So we've cut child death in half in the past 2 decades, and the big goal is to cut them in half again. How do you actually plan to get there?
Yeah. So first, we're going to keep doing what's been working for the last 2 decades. The biggest tool has been vaccines and providing vaccines to kids who don't need them. But over and above that, we now know half of the kids that are still dying of preventable disease die in the first week of life.
Wow.
And so the interventions now that really help with pregnant mothers, treatment at birth with community healthcare workers, nutrition interventions combined with those treatments, we're very confident we can at least halve child mortality again in the next 2 decades.
Amazing. My next question is, we've seen simple things, as you mentioned, vaccines and bed nets save millions of children's lives. What are the new solutions that's going to help us reach the goal?
Yeah, so, well, first, bed nets, it's always a moving train. The first generation of bed nets, mosquitoes are now evolved to be resistant to them.
Wow.
So we actually had to help develop a new set of what we call dual insecticide bed nets, which are extra robust, but those have a huge impact. And malaria actually kills more kids than any other disease. It's hundreds of thousands of kids, nearly all in Africa. But on top of that, we believe you can actually develop new vaccines, a malaria vaccine. We've got some ones now. They work, they're partially effective. We can get fully effective ones. We can get a tuberculosis vaccine. That's the disease that still kills more people than any other. We've got trials going on. Most of them are going on in South Africa right now. We'll know by 2027. And then the big one would obviously be an HIV cure, which, we've got some amazing treatments. We've got this new tool which can actually help prevent HIV in 99.9% of cases. But we want to go all the way. We want to stop all the new cases and then ultimately cure the disease.
As a fellow South African, you know that we have the largest HIV burden in the world. For families living that reality, do you see hope at the end of the tunnel?
Yeah, I think there's hope right now, not even just at the end of the tunnel, because we do have these new prevention tools I talked about, and we've been able to really drive down the costs of treatment and access to treatment. We know there are big financial challenges right now, and we're working with the South African government and other partners to make sure that people who need treatment are able to be tested, get treatment. But ultimately, we also think we can get to a stage where there is a cure. And so tackling HIV is something we've shown we can make massive progress on. We have millions of people alive today who wouldn't have been alive 20 years ago. But yes, this is a disease we really want to bring to the end point where it's fully under control, and that's one of our aspirations for by the time we close our doors in 2045.
And I think one of our successes is that we move from pills to injectables, right?
Absolutely. So the injectable, this is for the prevention. Well, for the prevention, you've got a 6-monthly injectable.
Wow.
And then we actually hope, because some people prefer to take pills than injectables.
Yes.
The injectables can last a long time, but some people might be. And so we're working on a weekly pill that you could take that would also prevent HIV. We've just started the trials of that. We announced that a couple of months ago. And so, yes, there are all these exciting innovations coming, which really help those need for HIV especially, but all those infectious diseases which still disproportionately affect Africans.
Great. When you say we can't stop at almost, what's the hopeful vision, or how does success look like in 2045?
Yeah, well, we hope it's a world that is fundamentally transformed, where we may actually have eradicated malaria, that kids won't have to grow up needing a bed net, that HIV will be a disease that's fully under control and manageable, that tuberculosis is something we can cure. That's our vision for 2045. It's one that we believe that we've shown what progress is possible, and that's why we say we cannot stop at almost. We've almost got all diseases, but we need to make sure we go all the way. And the vision of the Gates Foundation is that every person deserves the chance to a healthy and productive life, and we want to do our best to make sure it really is every person.
Because almost saving a child's life is not good enough, right?
It's absolutely not good enough. We need to save those lives from preventable death, and not just save them, but then allow them to grow up to have healthy and productive lives as members of their community and society.
Okay. So for people who are watching us now, what's one thing they can do to help us reach our goal?
Well, the first is don't lose hope. I think people get depressed right now and they think these challenges are insurmountable, and they're not. They're tackleable. And so being advocates in your own community about what's possible, and then being advocates actually back to government, because in the end, the government is the essential service provider. It does need to prioritize and provide the resources. The South African government is doing some great work on it, but there's more that needs to be done, and so take action. Don't just stand and be depressed. Act, mobilize, and good things will happen.
Thank you, Mark. Last question. I couldn't find any information about this online. When you are not working, what are your hobbies or activities that you try not to miss?
Well, I like to play tennis.
Okay.
I like to sit in the sun. As a good South African, I live in a city which is very rainy right now, Seattle. Seattle is drizzly. I like to find my way to a beach. Ideally, you
Town.
invite me to a Cape Town beach, I would love to come.